Welcome, everyone, to Balls on the Pitch. I'm Hussein Seif, and with me once again,
Is Kareem Hosem.
hello. It's been another week, just over this time.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
yeah, I think we should start off with some recent events that have happened, specifically in Egypt, but it's kind of rippled through the online landscape. And that is basically the topic of sexual harassment has come up again, and it's taken it's a momentum that we haven't seen before, and resulted in some actual tangible arrest has been made, as far as I understand, against one
Yes.
Ahmad Zaki. People who don't know, do you have like a brief overview or summary of the situation?
Yeah, I mean, it was this guy. I'm trying to remember what the first thing I saw about him was, but basically, sometime last week, a girl came forward through, I think, what was an account called Assault Police. I think Assault Police, that's where it started. It started on Twitter, and then they were gathering sort of like the case
Mm-hmm.
with evidence and everything from different girls on Twitter.
Yeah.
But there was one girl who was sort of like the main focus at that time, and then they moved it to Instagram. And that started sort of like gaining more and more momentum, with more and more girls basically sending in through DM their experiences with this guy, until it sort of reached to 100 and 150 like girls were like who came to this account with stories. And he basically there started to have sort of like a campaign from his side of the family, sort of like trying to calm things down and sort of like derail the situation, basically saying he's mentally ill, all of the sort of like the excuses that you have to sort of like excuse that that sort of behavior,
The insanity plea.
yeah. And there were like a lot of sort of like Twitter activity against sort of people who were supporting these girls. But the more and more the account Assault Police grew, the more and more pressure there was, sort of like a sort of feeling of that something had to be done about it. I think the government felt like something had to be done, because it had gotten to a certain point where it was very loud on social media about this whole thing, and rightly so, because I think it's the first time you sort of see a shift of so many people talking about something like this. I think earlier, when it's been talked about, it has been talked about in Arabic before, but I don't think it's been communicated in the right way, or the amount that it's been communicated in. Like, I think the amount of girls who have come forward with something like this, they have grown up in an environment where they speak out. They have grown in a social media era, and that has an effect on you, because social media encourages you to speak, to express yourself, to show us what you're doing right now. Show us your favorite pet. Show us your favorite team. Show us your favorite player. Show us your favorite music. So social media, it helps you express your way. And these kids have grown. These kids that he's harassed, and that he's sexually harassed in general, and some of them raped, are 10 and 12 and 13 and 14 when he was 18 and 19 and 20 and 21. So these are girls who are now getting that voice to speak. This has been happening over a period of 5 years.
Wow.
So, if not more. And you have stories from Canada, and you have stories from Barcelona, and you have stories from a lot of places about this one guy. And it's just like I think everyone realized that something had to be done, and the way these girls were communicating their stories, these stories were being translated into Arabic and in the in a way that would be understood by the general public. Mm-hmm. They weren't sort of just like being put out there in English so that no one could understand. Sort of like the people who maybe don't know English or can't read English or can't understand English. They are now seeing these stories in their own language. They can read it, they can understand it, they understand the emotion. Yeah. And I think that's the real difference in this time. Yeah. Because you can obviously see that it's created a ripple, it's created a huge wave in society. A lot more people are talking out, and it's pressured the government into changing a law that will now protect victims who come forward with their story, that they be completely protected. Their name won't be revealed. Yeah. Nothing will be revealed. Their stories will be detailed as they wish, and their name, they won't ever have to sort of like face the ridiculous claim that it's a fadiha, or it shouldn't be something that they talk about, because their image will be tainted. It's not,
which is something actually I want to talk about. I think we should probably address. I'm not one who is a fan of like comparing cultures or saying that one culture is better than another, but I can say that there are aspects to the modern Arab culture and society that need some fundamental modernization, let's say, or a change. One of those is, well, if you want to find the perfect case study of what patriarchy looks like, you could look at a number of Arab states. It's quite it's quite shockingly true, yeah. And one of the consequences of that is that we live in a political and cultural and social cultural landscape that is heavily influenced by the religious thought and the political leanings of men on a mass scale. And it's basically, we're at like hundreds of years into this process now, and it's leveled out into the landscape that we have today. And on the point that you were saying about like we're finally having some good dialogue about this in Arabic, that's the stark realization. It's like, if you wanted to look at how much good dialogue you have around whether or not a woman should wear a hijab, for example, you wouldn't find a shortage of that. But for some reason, we have a shortage of good dialogue around protecting women. And I think there's been a sad lack of leadership from men in our region around this issue. And I think several other issues that our society really needs fixing. And sexual repression is another big thing that is our problem, and might be a contributing factor to these kinds of things. I mean, I've seen some pretty disgusting videos online over the last week, and I have over my life, obviously, and I've seen disgusting behavior. I've witnessed this firsthand. But I think the argument that makes the most sense is that, when you repress sexuality to such a degree in society, you make it something that is so unattainable and therefore so precious to people, sort of like Gollum in The Ring, that they want to snatch at it and grab it whenever they see it, and it becomes this thing that they're constantly obsessed with because it's so repressed, So I'm wondering if there's something about sexual education that we need to address in our society as a whole. We have to start, okay, well, to get really political here, there is a advantage to conservatism. There's sexual conservatism is something that our society accepts because it's the safer route generally. In our culture's mind, sexual liberation means more risk. It means more potential of having to, deal with different people's urges or different people's whatever. So we turn to become a sexually conservative society, which I'm also a sexually conservative person, but because it's the safer, route, and it's something that is comfortable for most of the people in our society. But the flip side of that is we've instituted a society where there's a certain form of sexual conservatism which leads to a form of control, which leads to a repression of those urges and a misunderstanding of the role of sex in society, and a status of women as being these, like, prized possessions that you have to strive and work hard to, so you can get one, and then she's yours, and you'll have her and she'll have your children and everything. Not to say that that timeline is toxic in of itself, but if that's the only thing that you think women are good for, then obviously that's not a complete picture of what women bring to society.
It's taught from a very young age. We've had it in films, and we've had it in you have it in mainstream media for a long time, where sort of like the woman has always been sort of inferior to a guy in films, and there's very few films that are sort of like very women empowering within like Egyptian cinema or recent Egyptian cinema. It's gotten better over the years, obviously, but this generation of boys have grown up with films that have been very sort of like very macho, very sort of brushes away sexual harassment because it's like, haha, it's funny, I'm just kidding, so it's all of these messages that we're seeing right now of women saying, by the way, it's not funny, we don't want you to do this, we are disgusted by it, all of these messages are sort of like messages that these boys have grown up with. They've grown up with the opposite of those messages, basically.
Yeah.
So it's created that behavior in a way that's sort of excused because it's a joke. Moving forward with the show, we look forward to having women football fans join us in a segment that we will be creating for future episodes.
Definitely, that's something we've always planned.
Yes,
not just because of the events of last week.
Exactly.
It was something that was already in our plans, but yes, definitely something we look forward to very much. All right, so let's talk about some foosball or something related to football.
Yes, let's.
Okay, well, there are a couple of things here that I want to cover, but let's start with the media. And there's a specific topic that I want to talk about, which I thought was an interesting one that I always think about, which is basically I've highlighted a specific media narrative that everyone plays on that's complete horseshit, and I want to think of your opinion. So here's my broad hypothesis. Any media narrative that has anything to do with a squad management decision that a manager makes is complete horseshit. Prove me wrong.
So any narrative that's made against a squad management decision?
Yeah. So, for example.
Give me an example.
Arteta, for example.
Yeah.
Because I'm an Arsenal homer, obviously. Doesn't play Mesut Ozil like he hasn't.
Yeah.
Mesut Ozil doesn't even travel, right? And so, Mesut Ozil is the perfect poster boy for this, because this has been happening since Wenger now. So every time Mesut Ozil hasn't played, there has been the sensationalist media narrative of, oh my God, he's not playing again. They hate Mesut Ozil. Mesut Ozil he's earning 400k and he's not playing. Oh, and it's like again over and over and over and over. And when like the reality is that, all right, the guy was injured and he couldn't play that much, and so we didn't play him because he was injured, and he's still injured. And he obviously has a chronic back problem. And the intensity of the system that we play doesn't really suit him. So he only can really play games that are easy runs out, where he can just like stroll around and not have to run at all. Because he basically can't run anymore. Like, that's the underlying truth about Mesut Ozil. Obviously he can run a little bit, but you know what I mean? Like, he can't run.
But do you actually believe that?
I believe that, yeah. I believe 100%. So that's what I think the actual problem is. Like when Unai Emery says, "Oh, it was a tactical decision," or Arteta says it was a tactical decision, like what they're saying is Mesut Ozil can't play our system because he can't counter press because he can't run.
But then why haven't you sold him?
Because we can't.
But why?
It's because he earns too much money.
But what?
He earns too much money. Well, if you overpay for someone, in order to sell them, you then have to get someone is willing to take those wages. Because that footballer is not going to take a pay cut for no reason. So if you ever want to
I
sell
mean,
someone, you have to find someone who will pay them roughly the same amount of money, which
I
no one
mean
will because
that's
he's
not your
basically
job
done
to
now.
find them.
It is actually. It's so funnily enough
How is
that
it?
is.
How is it? Wait, how's it the club's job to find the player a transfer? That isn't that on the
I'll
agent?
tell you why. I'll tell you how. Because in this scenario,
Yeah,
it's the club that wants the player out. Player's fine. He's pocketing 400K a week. What's he
yeah.
complaining about? You know. So if the club wants to sell him, which they do, I'm pretty sure, they can't because of the price tag. Same thing with Mustafi. Same thing with other players over the years. It's one of those situations where, so basically, but anyway, the hypothesis is every time someone complains that someone didn't start, or someone's on the bench, or someone didn't travel, it's like, my message is, from a coaching perspective, everything that's squad management related, it's all conjecture. You guys have no idea what's going on.
Yeah,
you have no idea.
It's true to a certain extent. I think sometimes they read into, like, the press read into a lot, like, into things too much, and
all the time.
bogus.
Yeah,
sometimes. So, like, let's say most of the time. Most of the time,
I'll give you most
of the time, the media reads into things too much, and they create a narrative that is a little bit like, it's blown out of proportion a little bit, so that they can get their clicks, they can get their views, all of that. But I think sometimes they get it right. They read the situation right. Like, I'm trying to remember, was it the Sanchez situation at United when there was, like, talk of, like, him not really feeling great since his transfer, or blah blah blah. Like, I think part of that was true. I just think they sensationalize a lot, just so they can get that viewership. But I feel like sometimes they read the situation right.
Yeah, like I think the moments where they get it right is because someone leaks the information. And I think other than that moment, that situation, it's all bullshit. And, like, all the fans as well, they sit there and they complain. Like, what I'm trying to say is, it's the manager's decision what he does with his squad. And there are so many things that go on behind closed doors as to why someone would be starting. Like, for example, Kolasinac started a game ahead of Tierney, and people were mouthing off about it last week. It's like, okay, first of all, you don't know how Kieran Tierney trained or how Kolasinac trained. You don't know how many games are in Kolasinac's contract that he has to start per season. Yeah. You don't know, like, the state of Kieran Tierney, if he's ready to even start a game. So all of these, like, complex fundamental questions that a manager has to like, decide things on. And then none of that's the actual reasons that people are complaining about things, because they don't know those reasonings. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, like, it's another one of those things that I was talking about in the last episode, where it's like we've disconnected from the reality of what the team actually is. And what we, the observers of the team, think it is. Yeah. And I think that's bad. Like, I think every time fans and the media get further away from what the sport is, it's bad.
Yeah. You know? I agree on a certain level. I'll be honest with you. I sort of like leaks. I'm a bit of a sucker for
leaks
like
are good.
Getting, like, inside info.
Yeah, I love leaks because that gives you because like what I'm saying, like, leaks get you closer to the truth.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm complaining about things that get us further away. That's just
bad. No,
get me closer. Agree. Yeah, you want a club want to leak shit. The player wants to leak shit. By all means, it's the way the game is played. Just get us closer to the truth.
No. Like, I don't. What's the word? I don't condone it. I don't condone that type of behavior. But I enjoy it. I can still enjoy it when it happens, because it does happen. So I don't condone that anyone does any of like that type of shit with their employer, or professionally in general. Professionally.
Oh no, of course.
Just like leaking info is a no-no. But, like,
no, but not in sports.
It's fucking fun to watch.
It's but like in sports, like
it's entertainment.
It's everywhere. Like GMs or
yeah.
football directors or like team owners, man, they're leaking shit left and right. Absolutely. It's hilarious. Absolutely. It's hilarious.
Madrid are the kings of that.
Yeah, man, unreal. I mean, the shit that Barcelona did to try and get Fabregas. Dude, like I used to hate Barcelona so much
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
because of
No, no, no.
how they.
I think that
If
was around that time. That's when I sort of like my appreciation for that team sort of like just really like started to go down.
because of
And
the
at that
Fabregas shit.
point, yeah, I think that was
Yeah,
the
yeah,
point
dude.
when it sort of like I'm trying to remember who was no. So who did they take off us first?
Can we do a quick side tangent?
Yeah,
What was your initial reaction when you heard that we bid 40 million and £1 for Luis Suarez?
that was a fucking joke. That was such a fucking joke. It was beautiful.
Is there
And then
any
you
part
got
of you that thought that that would be successful?
absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like no, like I don't think any of the Liverpool fan base thought that was a serious bid.
Oh my
Like we
god!
all took it as a joke, and it was
And the funny
such
thing
a
is,
joke.
the funny thing is, we all knew it was a serious bid. You know, so like,
One of our main owners, he came out and like he tweeted at that time, I wonder what they're smoking over there at the Emirates.
yeah,
And that was
yeah.
such a beautiful burn. It was just, it hit the spot at exactly the right time, and it was brilliant. And he's been a legend ever since, basically.
Yeah. I mean, come on, like, what else are you gonna do? Like, I was so upset. I was so salty about that. I was like, it's this release clause, man. We triggered it. that's
You
what
triggered it, but like the player doesn't have to agree
we
to
don't
go.
have to do anything. Yeah, exactly. It's like someone in Arsenal was like, oh, no one's thought of this yet. I know what I'll do.
£1. Oh, who the fuck was your
Wow,
sporting
dude.
director at the time?
I wouldn't be surprised if it was Ivan fucking Dukazidis, dude.
No, I don't think. I think he was had before
It's
him.
probably too far
But like,
back.
it was so like. Thank you, Steven Gerrard, for like convincing Suarez to stay for another season, and not like making the club into more of like a ridiculous situation by letting him go for 40 million and £1. I think it was Mascherano when he left us and went to Barcelona, and that was sort of like when I started feeling like a little bit of bad blood with this club. That was like, you know what, you can't. And this is like Mascherano was one of the pillars of the team at that time, because he was like a beast of central defensive midfielder. Like he was a monster. Like he was
had him and Alonso at one point. I was so
yeah,
jealous.
him, Alonso,
So
and
jealous.
Gerrard
And
in
Gerrard.
midfield, and that was just like a fucking dream team.
Who's this Adam Lallana character? Like, what's his name?
You really don't know Adam Lallana?
No, I know who he is. I just want to know like why he's
My
a thing.
opinion on him.
What's the deal here?
Adam Lallana he came in. I'm trying to remember which
Like
manager
my
he
honest
came in.
reaction is I'm surprised he's still there. Like I don't understand
Yeah.
what the hype is.
Yeah.
Why is he still in Liverpool?
What hype have you been seeing? Where have you been on?
No, the
internet?
fact that he's still at Liverpool is hype enough, Kareem.
Hype enough? What are you talking about? Hype enough? He doesn't play.
No,
He
right,
barely
exactly. But
plays.
he has the hype to be at Liverpool. I mean, that's pretty substantial.
I mean, I don't think it's hype. I think
It's poor choice of words, whatever.
I think Jurgen Klopp just appreciates the type of player he is when he's fit, and Klopp is not the type of player who will let go of a player just because they're injured. I think he's shown that with players like Ox, for example, where when he was out for a whole year, he was like, that's fine. And they renewed his contract for an extra year after he completed his rehabilitation, just to like make up for that year that he lost.
Yeah. I'm really happy that he's having a good career with you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, so happy.
Yeah.
Like when he came to Arsenal, it was like a nightmare. It was like the worst way you could start at a club.
Yeah.
Like just because of where the club was at, like it was so much pressure to perform.
Yeah.
And, like in his
but
his
you had
first
a decent team that time. Like at that time when Ox came, like it wasn't
dude.
a bad team.
I don't know, dude. In his first season, I believe we lost 8-2 to Man U, and that was like one of our worst like times.
Was that the first season Ox came to you?
I'm quite sure, because like I remember him coming on in that game, or starting the game for whatever reason, and being like, this is a big
the
occasion.
8-2 wasn't that far.
Dude, I'm telling you, I'm quite certain that the 8-2 was in Ox's first season, because I was like, how are we putting this rookie in this game? And I was like, oh my god! And I think he also got a red card in that game, if I'm not mistaken, or someone else did. In
Yeah,
any
that
case,
was
it was an 8-2, and
2011.
it was terrible, dude. But anyway,
2011, Jenkinson got a red card.
Jenkinson, Carl Jenkinson, love that guy.
Carl Jenkinson.
What a story!
Wow.
What a story! But
God
yeah,
damn.
Oxlade-Chamberlain is one of those players that Arsenal almost ate up just with our expectations.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that he went to Liverpool, had a resurgence, and he's won the league now. It's great. I love that guy. He's one of really good people, Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Definitely. Ox, I love Ox. He's got such a good vibe, and he's a good kid, and he trains hard, and like he's worked very, very hard to sort of like come back from the injury that he had, and it's like it was a big injury. It wasn't an easy injury at all, and I think a lot of people would lose hope with an injury like that, and a lot of players have lost hope with an injury like that, and I think he's done well mentally to get back to where he is, and he's sort of used not used but had the help of other players. I don't know if you know. Have you heard of Rhian Brewster?
Vaguely.
So Rhian Brewster is on the books at Liverpool, sort of like an academy level.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember where he came in from initially. I have a feeling it was Chelsea as a youngster. I have a feeling he was at Chelsea as a youngster, and then he had a brilliant World Cup with England, I think in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember the exact year, but it was the Under-20 World Cup or something like that. And he had a fantastic tournament. I can't remember if it was him who was the top scorer of that tournament, or if it was someone else. But he did really well in that tournament, and it was the same tournament. I think Phil Foden got man of the tournament, player of the tournament, basically. So I think the same generation, and he's basically out on loan to what are they called, Swansea, and he's doing a great job. And he had a similar sort of like injury to Oxen, was in the sort of like rehab room around the same time. So it was really nice to see sort of like there was always content coming out from his side and from Rhian's side, sort of them sort of like joking around in rehab together, and
rehab
sort of like
buddies,
and the club was creating content that was sort of like showcasing their relationship during rehab and the camaraderie. So again, it's sort of like that narrative of creating an atmosphere around the situation that makes it sort of more bearable, makes fans sort of like sympathize with these players and give them support, and instead of the hate that they usually receive online.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, it's really cool when you see like players helping each other out, and when you're injured like that, it's really a much darker place than people probably imagine. Like as someone who's been disabled by injury better part of the last like 6 years, I can say that it's not a cool place. It's not a cool place to be. Like obviously I'm much better now. I'm not like that anymore. But when you feel like you're crippled basically because everything hurts, it's very, very dark place. So so many footballers are there and go to that place like often. So you have to give them credit when they bounce back.
Of course,
it's always a great thing when they're able to do that, because I think a lot of people don't. Like I think one of the reasons that I loved and had so much respect for Arsene Wenger is because of how he treated Abu Dhabi.
Yeah,
like no other person would have kept him on.
Diaby was world class, by the way. Diaby was so world class.
Yeah, dude.
He had potential to like really fucking hit world class ceiling in terms of like the way he played, the way he carried himself on the pitch, the way he ran. He was such a good central defensive midfielder and a midfielder in general. If it weren't for the injuries that he had, he would have been your Vieira, your second Vieira.
Amazing, yeah,
absolutely.
It's just his measurables were so like great, like. Someone with his length operating in his position, he was like a cheat code, But if we could just kept him on the pitch, but like that's the kind of like kind of operating with honor kind of thing that I respected about Wenger, or like having like that's a good values at the club, that we take care of our people, like we don't just throw you out on the street. And fine, you had like your 5th injury, we're still gonna take care of you, I don't think we're gonna see that kind of thing happen as much anymore, but it was
I think it's very rare now.
But it was great to see, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Same thing with Rosicky as well. One of my favorite players.
Yeah, exactly.
Down here, so. And you know Cazorla, so super crazy. Cazorla, who is now like
Cazorla's
like,
ripping it up in Spain,
ripping
man.
it up. Yeah,
He's
yeah.
fucking ripping
And-
it up in Spain.
and
He's
he-
living his best life, man.
and doctors told him back in I don't know 20.
I was
I don't
2018,
know,
wasn't it?
yeah, something like that. Even before that, I think maybe 17.
Yeah.
16,
I
maybe.
think so. Yeah.
They said you'd be lucky, be happy if you walk again. That's what they said.
Yeah.
Uncool of the doctors to give Santi Cazorla that deadline, and good
Absolutely.
for Santi Cazorla. It's good for Santi Cazorla for throwing that back in their face and
Exactly.
becoming like
Very
an
good
assist
luck.
leader again.
That's a hell of a story. I love that story.
Yeah,
I love
And-
the Santi Cazorla story. It makes me like tear up a little bit every time I read it. Every time he scores, it's just like, oh,
yeah, he's such a beautiful man, and like just
He
the
is.
way he plays football as well is amazing. to watch.
yeah, he's excited. He was literally one of my favorite players, like when he was in the Premier League.
Yeah, man, it was so much fun. You know who's currently a favorite player of mine?
Who?
Bukayo Saka.
But yes, that is true.
What?
There
What
were
is this?
rumors. There were rumors that we were gonna take him off you.
Yeah, whatever. Fuck that noise. That's not happening. He signed a new deal. He signed the
Yes,
thing,
he
as
did.
they say.
He did. He's not- I mean, that could just be to ensure that Arsenal get like money for
Good
him.
money. Yeah, but you see that last goal
Exactly.
he scored? That's some high technique you need for that
I
goal.
Can't remember. Let me hold on.
Okay,
Let
well,
me-
he
let
just
me pull
scored
it up.
against, not against Leicester, the game before Leicester.
Hold on. I gotta
it doesn't-
give the rest of the pizza to my
No
friend.
problem. Well, anyway, he scored this delicious, like absolutely delicious volley, like coming.
Wait, let me
it's
pull it
coming-
up. Let me pull it
Yeah,
up. I
you
wanna
gotta
watch this.
pull it up.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, that is nice.
It's so nice, right?
This kid is so good. I love this
It's so
boy.
good, dude. I know, man. When he first
so-
came out, I was like, "Do I trust you?" And now I'm like,
I mean, he first came out. He was on wasn't he on the right? No, left wing. He was further up the field, wasn't he? And then they sort of like Arteta then brought him
It's
back
like-
into that sort of like left wing back position, didn't he?
I thought it was the opposite. Like, well, I don't know. Maybe I was a bit late at the party, but like from when I started, he was like a left wing back or like whatever.
Oh,
And now
la.
now he's playing right wing. He's like literally
Wait.
starting right wing right now. It's really great.
Yeah, no. What
And left wing.
like the kid? He's special talent. Like I love him, man. I love him. Like I would have loved for those rumors to be true about him coming to Liverpool, but like you know what, you will do well with him, and I hope Arteta makes a player out of him because like he deserves to like shine.
Yeah. There were also rumors, transfer rumors, my biggest pet peeve. There was
Mm.
also rumors that that you guys were gonna take Martinelli off us, as
Who?
if we would Martinelli.
Martinelli.
Yeah.
I like him, but I don't
Come on,
think he
he's
fits
good-
our
good player.
style. He's a good player. I like him. I like him a lot.
Fits
his
your
record.
style. Come on, what you mean? The
What are you
style
talking
of attacking space? A fast player can't attack space efficiently.
No,
What do
he
you
can
mean
attack
fit your
space,
style?
but like we don't need him right now. Like he would be surplus to requirement. We already have like fucking Rian Brewster
Yes, we have
and
everyone.
Harry Wilson and like all of there are like a lot of players who are coming in through the ranks. Harry Wilson is a
Come on,
great
man.
player. Excuse
Come on,
you.
man. Martinelli, bro. Martinelli.
Harry Wilson is a
Who
great
are
player.
these people?
Excuse you. Martinelli has been very good stats wise. He's been great to watch, and like I hope he has a great career. But like we also have some top players like coming through the ranks. Excuse you.
I agree. I agree. No disrespect. No disrespect. Speaking of transfer rumors, there's a reason that I have this shirt up here, this Alexis shirt.
Yeah.
Alexis was the first player that I, as an Arsenal fan, predicted and wanted that transfer to happen.
Yeah.
After watching him at Barcelona, and then it happened, and I was like
Mhm.
so giddy and happy and excited. I was like, yes, for the first time, I actually made a projection about who I wanted, and then we got him. I was like, amazing.
Yeah.
It's so fucking great. And you know, obviously, he's the first couple of years, I guess, with us, he's just amazing. And
Yeah,
I buy this shirt. I think it's his second season shirt or his first season. I can't remember. But everyone knows what happens after that. He goes to fucking Man United for whatever reason.
But he
And,
fails miserably, and it's
He fails
beautiful.
miserably, which is beautiful.
It's fucking beautiful. Everything about it. I swear to God, from like the announcement with the fucking the grand announcement with the fucking piano and the fucking
No, yeah, and he put the fucking shirt on. He's like,
yeah.
and then gets up. Fuck you, dude.
so good. It
Fuck
just fell
you
flat on
fucking
his face.
asshole.
It's so
Yeah,
good.
yeah. I love it.
Like
I love it.
everything about it is so ironic and beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. But this is the
And they still pay his wages. They still pay his wages. It's beautiful. I swear to God, it's beautiful. He's out on loan to Inter and has been for like fucking ages. I think it was from the beginning of the season. Like
Yeah.
went out on loan to Inter, and they still pay Alexis Sanchez 300,000 a week
Unreal.
for playing for another club. It's brilliant.
It is.
Fucking brilliant.
It's beautiful.
I tell you,
It
it's
really
an
is
Ed
beautiful.
Woodward masterstroke.
It is beautiful. I was happy when he was playing for us, but if you're gonna go to Man United, that's what you deserve. But like, it's so funny how we turn on people. Like we turned on Robin van Persie hard. When he left.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't do that. There are certain rivalries where you just don't do, like go for like Suarez to Arsenal was another one. Like Suarez to Arsenal, if it had gone through, like there would have been like a lot of bad blood between Liverpool fans and Suarez. Like there's a little bad blood after he went to Barcelona, but people understood it more when he stayed for an extra season with us and then went to Barcelona, because that's basically what Gerrard told him. He was like, "Listen, if you're gonna leave the club, don't leave for someone in England. Leave for one of the bigger clubs who will come in for you in a year's time."
Yeah, I think it's always the best decision for a player anyway to extend your contract. And
yeah.
If you want to leave, just make him pay for you, whatever.
Exactly, absolutely. I mean, that's the ethical way.
It's a win-win.
If you don't have any bad blood with the club, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, at least that way the club gets an investment, gets to get some money for you. You know.
Yeah, but I
can
also understand like players who are like there's something fishy going on either with the board or with the manager, and something that's not being like communicated properly by the club or not being dealt with properly by the club. So like they're forced into sort of like saying like not playing or faking injury or like there's a lot of different factors about why players do this, but I understand it. But again, I don't condone it because it just makes you look as a player look unprofessional. I mean, look at Coutinho, for example. Coutinho he is hated by a large portion of the Liverpool fan base because of the way that he left. The way he sort of like faked that back injury because he didn't want to play, but then he went to play for the national team.
I didn't know that's what happened.
International friendly. So yeah, there's a lot of things that players do, and it's the way you go about a bad situation that you're in as a player that really sort of like makes the difference with the fans.
Shows who you are. There was a rumor about Coutinho coming to one of our teams.
So, yeah, that's true. But
I'd take him, no problem.
Personally, I take him too.
Okay.
But for the right price, like, there's a difference between like if you're offering him to me for like, I don't know, 100, 80, 60, I wouldn't take him unless it was like 40, 50.
I think that's exactly. I think that's all out of his range now. I think
40, 50 because I think we're also still owed owed money by Barcelona. So, like, if that's true, like, I think we should be like, 40, 50 million. We cancel out the rest of the fee. وشكرا كده. Call it a day. Bring him back. Have him play in this team. He'll basically be. He's someone who already knows the system from memory. He won't take like a lot of bedding in time. He'll understand the system. I wouldn't like him to be a starter, for example, but I would like him to play his part in the squad and sort of like coming on in maybe matches that sort of like need that little magical spark that he used to provide. That I think we've lost since he left. Like we don't really have that player that comes up trumps at the end of the game, or comes up trumps when you're sort of like in a tight spot at 1-1, and finishes the game off for you. I would love him to come back.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm sure he'd be thrilled to come and just not start for you. I'm sure that's a great pitch.
I mean,
for him. But I think if he came to Arsenal, he could probably start.
He would probably start for you, yeah. But I don't think he wants to go to any club. I mean, that's the sort of like the information that's really sort of like being put out into the media. I think around that time when it was being put out is that he didn't want to go to any other club in England, and he was willing to take a pay cut to go back to Liverpool. And I don't think the club really entertained that sort of narrative, and they didn't really comment on it. There was a lot of talk, obviously, on social media and everything, but the club didn't really entertain it. Just like they're not really entertaining the transfer rumors about Thiago right now. And I'm trying to remember, I think it was James Pearce who wrote something in The Athletic about these Thiago rumors might have sort of like, I think it was bolted Naby Keita into sort of like into life again. After he'd had like a couple of performances that weren't that good, he sort of like this last game he really put in a shift and he really played well. And I don't know if it's a direct link, but I think what his story is trying to say is sort of like it's trying to put Liverpool fans at ease about any transfer plans, because I don't think there's any real concrete truth to the Thiago rumors.
Right.
We don't really need him. He's a great player. I love him as a player, and I would love to have him as an option in midfield. I just don't think we have the room for him or the space for him in the team to come in. Obviously, if you sell someone, I mean, you could. Lallana's going at the end to go back to Lallana.
Yeah.
Lallana's leaving at the end of the season, and that's why he won't be playing for the rest of the games. Klopp said that he doesn't want to sort of like jeopardize his sort of future with his next club by playing him and tiring him out before the next season. Because he's obviously like 32, I think, 33 maybe.
Lallana, is this you're talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, how is he gonna play enough games to get tired out? Come on.
I mean, he's had injury problems before.
Oh, okay.
His fitness needs to be managed in a certain way at his age, with his sort of like injury history, that you get the best out of him with a certain regime. And I don't think playing sort of like every 3 days fits with that type of regime. So I think if he just like Klopp wants to give him sort of like he basically said he's already a legend here, so like just like let him see out the rest of his contract, let him be fresh for next season, and give him like a real shot at taking a go and sort of like reviving his career with a sort of like a nice sending off with whoever buys him. I think Leicester were the team being talked about.
And do you think that's accurate? He's a legend at Liverpool? Adam Lallana?
I think he's won enough things at this point. I mean, this whole squad has become sort of like almost at that level. And Lallana has sort of like been with Liverpool from a time where it was sort of like in the pits. Lallana came. I was trying to remember who Lallana came with. Which manager? So it was Rodgers. It was Rodgers.
Yeah.
But he's the type of player that Jurgen Klopp loves. He's sort of like quite diverse in the way that he plays, but why he's respected and why I think he deserves that term of legend for the club. I'm not saying he's a legend in general as a player. He's not a legend, but to the club, I think he's a legend because he witnessed that sort of like that push for the title with Rodgers, and he's had sort of like moments throughout Klopp's reign that have been sort of like slightly iconic. Like he's had goals that are similar to how iconic Divock Origi's goals are for Liverpool, where he sort of like he scored against, I think it was Norwich in the 5-5, I think, to equalize, and that's when sort of like Klopp's 5-4. I think that was a winner, and that was why it was such a huge elation and such a huge like reaction to the goal. That's when Klopp, like, he went to celebrate with Klopp, and all the players sort of like jumped on them, and like Klopp's glasses went flying and they broke, and it was just very like it was very emotionally charged. And you have sort of like games from this season against United. I mean, United, when we were losing to them at Old Trafford, Lallana came on towards the end of that game and scored an equalizer to keep our streak of no defeats going at that time, and B, to like win us a point instead of like having come home with none.
Yeah.
So I think
Fair play.
he deserves that title of legend for the club. I think he's served the club very well over the past 5 or 6 years, and I think because Klopp likes him as a player, he's kept him around for. There's a reason why he's kept him around. He's the way he deals with it, the way he carries himself around the team, the way he's sort of like connected with the squad. So there's that little aspect of squad harmony that Klopp really likes to nurture. So someone like Adam Lallana is close to a lot of the guys in the team. You have Henderson, you have Ox, you have Joe Gomez, you have Trent, you have all the English guys. He's sort of one of those boys, one of the English guys, and he creates that sort of like camaraderie. So that there's obviously a reason why Klopp likes him and has kept him around for so long, and I think he deserves a great send-off.
That's true. That's true. I mean, good for him. He got a Champions League medal now and a Premier League trophy coming up.
Exactly.
Good to know. Interesting how another fan's perception of a player can be so different from the club's perception.
Yeah. So like one point that I wanted to talk about, like with Danny Murphy and the comments that he made about the Liverpool team. I think it was just before the game with City. And there was all this sort of like fuss about the Guard of Honor that they were going to give us and all of that. And Danny Murphy said some stuff on Talk Sport, I think it was, that the Liverpool, like, he thought it was ridiculous, or I can't remember the exact term
he was saying if I'm Kevin De Bruyne and I'm having to give a Guard of Honor to players who can't lace his boots, then I think that's bullshit or whatever. Basically, he's saying if I'm Kevin De Bruyne, exactly. I don't like that I have to do that.
The exact term he used was the lacing, like players who can't lace his boots. So like that in and of itself is a term that is like, that's really harsh on a player. Like, and it's a really bold fucking claim to make when the Liverpool midfield and the whole team have helped the team to reach like a 25-point gap with the team that the player you're like saying in De Bruyne, his team is like, they're 25 points behind us. Like, what are you saying? Like, I understand. Let's agree that yes, Kevin De Bruyne is a more technically gifted, skilled, and better player than pretty much all of our players in midfield.
Yeah, that's
so
why he said
that's a fair thing to say, and I agree with that. And that is my opinion. I think De Bruyne is better than
that's
all
his
of
game
the
technically.
Exactly, and he's been one of the best midfielders in the Premier League since he's joined City.
Yeah, but so has Jordan Henderson.
I mean, yes, but he's not as technically gifted. But Jordan Henderson this season is winning the Premier League. Kevin De Bruyne is not. So you can't make the ludicrous claim that, like, our midfield can't lace the boots of Kevin De Bruyne. That's just a strange claim to make.
No, exactly. I think it's one of those things where, like, you know, players who are technically gifted are like automatically valued more. So like you just automatically you filter them into like a higher level, a higher stratosphere.
Yeah.
And so you think of your players, and you don't think of anyone who like pops technically as much as your strikers do or your forwards do.
Yeah.
But if you look at someone like Jordan Henderson, who obviously isn't like, you know, the crossing genius that Kevin De Bruyne is, like the Kevin De Bruyne's low crosses or like deep crosses are so filthy. Like I've never seen anything like it. That's unreal yet. But Jordan Henderson has, you know, arguably just as much, or if not more, effect on a game, just by virtue of how much he controls the game and how much running he's doing. Like athletically, he's doing some really high level work. And so if you look at it objectively, if you're not sort of putting the technically skilled ones on another level, then you could say that Kevin De Bruyne and Jordan Henderson are, you know, comparable players of quality wise, or even, you know, the same level, or you could say Jordan Henderson's better because he won the league. So you could argue it a lot of ways, but I think he said that just because, you know, of that Kevin De Bruyne's, you know, creativity factor.
Yeah, I think it was a poor choice of words, and to give him sort of like not the benefit of the doubt, sorry, to give him the credit. He did come out and apologize for it. He came out and said it was a poor choice of words. That was not how I intended it to come out. And I think, again, we keep coming back to this point, but it rings true with everything we're saying in terms of how the media affects things. Something like TalkSport is one of those shows that sort of like brings on guests, and I think they sort of provoke a reaction out of their guests depending on who their guests are, and they end up getting these sort of like little tidbits of very sensationalized opinions because they're very on the spot. They're sort of like they're asked about their opinion right there and then the first thing that comes into their mind, they don't give any sort of like minutes thought to it, and they just blurt it out, and it comes out the way that Danny Murphy said about Kevin De Bruyne and our midfield not being able to lace their boots. It feeds that.
I think it's super interesting that he said it that way, and like when he's one of those people, Danny Murphy, where like he's had these moments where he speaks really well, and I'm like, oh, Danny Murphy, he's calling it like it is. I like it. Yeah. And he has these other moments where it's like, he puts on like the mean Danny Murphy.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like, it's like,
or like I don't care Danny Murphy.
Yeah, like the heartless Danny Murphy.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, and it is really weird, and it's like you could tell that in that moment in the interview, he's talking like in this deep voice. He's like, if I'm Kevin, fuck that. So like it's really funny how
like a persona.
Players, they get into this like I'm mean now. Like I'm default Roy Keane. I'm default.
Default Roy Keane.
I'm like, it's like,
but
you have these other moments where you're like, oh, I'm very objective, Danny Murphy, and I call everything really well. It's like, well, So it's really interesting about that, and like I guess it is like maybe the platform that he's on, or like the person he's sitting across that's like feeding this and like trying to get him to inhabit that.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on the energy of the conversation that's flowing. So take for example us right here, like the energy of the conversation that's flowing is quite positive. It's quite it's open in nature. So there's sort of like no real space for that sort of like hate and anger and
ego.
Exactly.
Ego, yeah.
Whereas the way hosts on shows like TalkSport and all that, the way they ask questions, I think it sort of provokes that reaction. It does create that sort of like sense. Exactly, it's loaded. It's a loaded question.
Yeah.
It creates that sensationalist sort of narrative that they're looking for to sell views online, basically.
Yeah.
And it did. Yeah, it created a conversation. It created a big conversation online. It created conversation within the Liverpool fan base. So like it did what they wanted it to do.
Yeah. No, I think that's totally what the purpose of that is. Yeah. Interesting. I think there's a lot of people who come under that, like who have done that before. Like obviously Roy Keane. I'm gonna say surprisingly, Roy Keane's last game that he was talking about, like he was surprisingly super chilled out. I was like, wow, this is like. I was like, oh, finally Roy Keane has developed a bit of perspective. But
he has.
We'll see how long that lasts.
Exactly. Roy Keane
another. Yeah, dude. Like, man, Roy Keane says some shit. I'm like, dude, these are people have feelings.
Anyway, exactly. Exactly. It's like, my man, that's really harsh for television. Harsh. Like, kids are watching you.
Yeah. Oh my god. Like, talk about toxic masculinity. Jeez. Yeesh.
He's old school.
Like,
he's old school. He's super old school.
Like Graham Souness, like
Graham Souness is like even more old school than him.
When I first started watching Graham Souness, I was like, who the fuck is this old crab bag?
Yeah.
Like, what's happening here? And then you watch it more and more, and like he softens over time.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, I could dig this. I could dig this vibe now. Oh yeah. But it's so funny how, like, when you take something out of context, you sound so stupid. Like, half of the shit that we've already said, like, on the first 2 episodes, it's like, does not apply anymore. Like, all the shit that, you know what I mean? Like, it's hilarious how
it's a real world, my man. It's a real world.
Yeah, man.
Talking about current events.
Yeah, we're talking about, like, fucking the Guard of Honor, and then Man City come in and ruin Liverpool's party.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, oh, shit. Yeah.
God damn, that was
must have been salty after that.
Yeah, that was terrible, man. That was absolutely terrible. That was sort of like Pep Guardiola telling us, you know what? I'll give you your Guard of Honor. I'll give it to you. and then sort of like inviting us in, and then like fucking locking the doors and just like giving us a fucking beating, man. That was
when he said we're gonna give them the proper welcome. I was like, I think there's double meaning there. I think he made sure that these guys were gonna beat you 4-0.
Yeah. I mean, it couldn't have been hard to sort of like motivate them for a game like this, because like at the end of the day, the teams won the title by 20. I don't know. We were 20, 23 points maybe ahead of them before that game, and we've already won, and it's basically a dead rubber. And so all he has to do is basically say, guys, you've got nothing to lose. They've already won it, and they don't care. So go out there and show who's dominant, and show them how to play. And they did that. They absolutely humiliated us. That game was fucking awful to watch. It was terrible. It was like the team had never seen each other. They'd never played together before.
Yeah, one of those days.
It was just one of those days where like everything was going wrong. Like missed passes, just like not seeing each other, not seeing like good balls to each other. Like it was just like very disjointed, and it was like I think the reaction to that game was heightened because you haven't seen this Liverpool team lose that much over the last 2 years. I'm trying to remember what the stat is, but I think in the past 2 years they've I think it's 200 and something games. They've won 180 something games out of them. So and like very few draws and then very few losses. So the overreaction to it is justified because you don't see this happening to this team regularly. Like you haven't seen it over the 2 years.
Yeah, but City's one of those teams where like if Man City and Liverpool played 10 times, each of you is winning at least 5. It's probably gonna be 5-5. So this was just one of those games.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't even read too much into it, to be honest. But like,
no, neither do I, man. Neither do I. I mean, players were celebrating like winning the league. The only thing I dislike about that, like I really was disappointing of that performance, was the fact that they didn't try. It didn't look like they tried to play, and that's I think what annoys Liverpool fans the most. I think that's the thing that really sort of like sits with Liverpool fans and rubs them the wrong way. Is because
but if you look.
If you need, like, if you're gonna lose, at least lose while trying it. At least give 150% in the game that you're gonna lose. Because I will look, as a fan, we appreciate that effort, even if we lose. Because at the end of the day, none of us really cared about that game or the result of it. It's just about the fact that it looked like they didn't try at all to make it work.
Looked like that, yeah. I mean, I'm sure that's the thing. Like, they obviously did try. It just appears like they didn't.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate.
Kudos to City. Kudos to City.
Can you imagine like the adrenaline dump that you go through once you won the league finally? Like,
definitely.
Come on, they're probably walking into that game like 25% less energy than City. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
Like Anyway, but
it's forgivable.
Yeah, it's forgivable. I mean, your next game, I think you've won your next 2 games at this point, right?
I think
won Wolves and.
I'm trying to remember if it was Wolves or if it was Crystal Palace.
No, that was before. You just beat Wolves, and then you also just beat someone yesterday.
Yesterday was Brighton.
Brighton, yeah. So you beat Wolves, you beat Brighton after that game. So.
Yeah, we've beaten Wolves, we've beaten Brighton. I'm trying to remember who scored in the Wolves game. I remember Brighton because it was yesterday. So,
Right, I mean, Salah scored some great goals yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday he was on top form. I think he's doing a very good job of trying to hunt for that sort of like 3rd successive golden boot in a row.
He was really trying hard to get that hat trick.
He was, and he was getting visibly frustrated. It like got on my nerves a little bit, but like, good on him for sort of like really having that desire to like go for it.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It's funny, like, because like you know that he's that's why he's a great player, because nothing's ever enough. Yeah. But also, when you have 2 goals and you're getting like frustrated in the 19th minute, you're like, okay, calm down. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's okay, it's bro. Funny, like, you don't need. Like if you don't get the goals, there's always the next game. Like we still have what 4 games to play. We're on the 34th game week.
Yeah, and it's
So
fun.
like,
The thing that I found hilarious is that he actually gets the last chance. Like Robertson floats the cross in.
Yeah, exactly.
He has the last chance to get there.
Exactly.
And then he misses it. It's so funny.
And like it's such a good chance. It's basically an open, like such an easy header.
Like I think if he just has that down.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's it. Problem.
But who are we to know?
No, of course not. Of course not. Arsenal have also played a couple games. We just drew 1-1 with Leicester. There was a controversy about red cards in that game.
The Nketiah red card, wasn't it?
Nketiah,
yeah.
Nketiah comes on and he basically lunges for the ball and the opponent's knee gets in the way.
What do you feel about it? Like how do you see it?
When I saw it, first of all, without replay, I thought it was innocent, and then it's still innocent, Yanni. But like when I saw the replay and I saw his foot touch the knee and the knee move, I knew it was going to be a red card.
Yeah,
serious foul play. Like as soon as the referee sees that, I know he's going to give him a red card for sure. But then Vardy had that incident where he basically kicks Mustafi in the face with his shins.
Yeah,
but that was like super accidental. But if you're gonna send Nketiah off,
but like I think the difference with that one is like Vardy's already like rolling on the floor, and it was while his back, like he actually hit Mustafi with his heel
while he was rolling,
and his back was to Mustafi, so it really was accidental. Whereas I think with Nketiah, he was going into a challenge. Yeah. So exactly. and to be honest, I thought, like from my opinion, seeing that in real time, I thought it was, and even after I saw it on replay, I felt like it was a bit harsh to give it as a straight red. I thought maybe it could have gone as a yellow, but I understood afterwards that like the rule is it's not about whether it was intentional or not. It was if it was the serious foul play or not. And I think at the end of it, when you look at it, like when you look at those replays, it is serious foul play, and he has to sort of like understand that you shouldn't be going into tackles like that. You should sort of like be calculating more how you're going to get the ball, and sort of like timing yourself so that you do get the ball. I think it's just a bit too. He should take it as a valuable lesson. He should take it as a valuable lesson to sort of like analyze what went wrong there, so that he doesn't do it again. From just sort of like a development perspective.
Yeah, I mean he's just a bit overeager. He's coming in and he wants to make a difference.
Yeah,
and he's lunging in there because he thinks I'm fresh and I wanna impose
he wants
myself.
To impress.
Yeah. But hopefully without him for 3 games now. But hopefully.
I mean, he's not your main striker. So like,
no,
you should make it.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Well, this was another episode of Balls on the Pitch.
Yes.
Very fun conversation this time around, and we will see you next week. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm Hussein Seif.
And I'm Kareem Hosem.
Please follow, share, like, subscribe. Tell your friends. We're here. You'll be seeing us every week. And we're waiting for you all. We're waiting for the horde of our loyal listeners to join us.
Yes.
So get the word out, everyone, and we'll see you next time on Balls on the Pitch. Thanks a lot.
Peace out.
Bye-bye. Okay, dude.
Nice. I like it.